Welcome back to Derry Public Radio. Reporting from the basement of the Derry Civic Center, this is CM Alexander with the news. Derry Public Library's annual Dodge Book Tournament has come to a close, and we cannot wait to hear who has come out on top. We take you live to sports correspondent Dr. John Hellajohn.
Thanks, CM. It's high noon as the Dank Herberts become the 2022 Dodge Book champions. I had the chance to speak with the head coach, Paul Thomas Ferguson, about what made the difference this year. He said the credit belongs to the team. They were ready to spice things up and let it flow on the court.
You are listening to Derry Public Radio. This is Derry Public Radio. Welcome back to Derry Public Radio, a bi-weekly Stephen King Book Club podcast. I am one of your hosts, CM Alexander, alongside Joshua Kahn.
Hey, everybody.
And Benjamin Graham.
What's up, constant readers?
And today we have our final matchups with our last round of March Madness, and Josh is leading us through this just, I don't even know how we're going to do this.
Yeah, we have it down to our top 8. And by the time we get to the end of this, we will have completely and arbitrarily selected the number 1 film adaptation we've covered.
And it's going to go on
reflective
IMDb.
Of this time right now.
Yeah, they're going to put it on IMDb and Wikipedia. It will be the official best Stephen King adaptation.
Well, I'm going to put it on Wikipedia. At least.
Yeah.
They don't let me edit IMDb anymore, not since the incident. All right, we had some great...
You kept trying to add that Danny DeVito was your dad.
Well, he hasn't taken the test. And until he does, we'll never know.
I see the family
interesting
resemblance.
Criteria. You haven't proved you're not my dad.
Exactly. That's how do you guys know your dads?
I don't want to be mean, but he raised me.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Sorry. We did. It's not my fault. We did an improv warm-up right before this.
Oh, right in my trauma.
Yikes.
That's amazing.
We love you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so ashamed.
No, that was amazing. Ooh, I'm going to send this episode to my dad when it comes out. And he'll say, "What's a podcast?" Let's get down to business before we get any further off track. I mean, it's a goof episode. What do you want from us?
True.
So we've whittled it down to these final matchups. I'm going to recap the matchups we're going to discuss first, and then we're just going to get into it. Sound good, guys?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, our first match of the night, we will have The Dark Half versus The Running Man. Then we will have Pet Sematary versus Christine, Shawshank Redemption versus Carrie, Misery versus 1408.
I wanted to float this idea past you guys. You guys don't obviously have to use this, but I was just thinking from the past 2 episodes that we've done how hard it is to narrow down the criteria that we are judging these by.
It's almost like it doesn't exist.
Completely subjective. Well, since this is the finals, I wanted to have some scientific, rigorous testing,
But we're introducing
reasoning.
in the third act.
Yes.
Okay.
For myself, I wanted to set one guiding principle, I guess.
Sure.
The only thing I could think of is I will be judging these final 8 movies by which movies cast would do better at fighting Godzilla.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
I will grant you that.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see where it leads you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I judge movies outside of the podcast.
That makes sense. So you're bringing your own flair to this final. Yeah, that
I've
makes
seen
sense.
a lot of Godzilla.
Yeah.
I feel like I can follow you.
Not me.
Perfect.
I've never seen
Please.
any of the Godzilla
Oh,
movies,
none of them?
actually. No.
No.
I would prefer none of them to the 1998 one.
Oh, with Matthew Broderick?
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Oh.
Okay, let's go.
No, we're in trouble.
All right, so up first we have The Dark Half versus The Running Man. Before we get into their battle, let's refresh who they bested to get this far. So the Dark Half took out Cell in round 1, and the Running Man, much contested, took out Dolores Claiborne in their round.
I still stand by it.
So let's talk about, we know they're good enough to make it to this round, so why should either one of these movies move on to the next round? Does anybody have a strong opening pitch for either of these?
The Dark Half is amazing. It's directed by George Romero, so you've got a lot of cool elements. Anytime you put together more than one of my favorite person, and it's pulled off well, I'm going to love it. I love the character of George Stark too, and Timothy Hutton's portrayal of him is perfect. Like, that is what I think of when I think of George Stark. And even though Ben Richards is also kind of, I think of him as almost an antagonist in a way.
Yeah.
He's a rough guy, like George is a rough guy. So it's kind of cool to have these two movies put against each other that both have like this person in them that you want to know what they're going to do, even if you don't necessarily agree that they should be doing it.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, I had the same thought that they're not that similar movies, but they have a similar feel to them, that like mid-90s genre movie feel, you know? And I fucking love it. I love both of these movies so much.
I just want you guys to remember just when I think of the Dark Half, in my head, I see all the birds taking off from the tree. Like, I am thrown back into that moment from the movie where it's just everything's quiet and then boom, all the sparrows. And the eyeball
God,
in
that
the
opening,
head, in the,
that
in the
opening
brain.
eyeball
It's really good.
Yeah.
is rock solid.
There's my pitch. So.
Ben, who would win in a fight against Godzilla?
I mean, it's unfair. One of these movies has Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
That's true.
That's a one-on-one.
Oh my God. Why don't we have a Arnold Schwarzenegger Godzilla movie?
That 90s Godzilla movie. That was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that was in development. It was supposed to be the sequel to Junior, which is the other Arnold movie we talked about
Okay.
earlier. The baby he gave birth to was a kaiju and
That
became a giant
makes
monster.
as much sense
Yeah,
as
yeah,
One
anything.
of the worst Godzilla moments when we have to deal with his baby. Like, truly. that would be a weird
Yeah.
throwback for fans. We have to stop talking about Godzilla.
Ben, any thoughts in favor of the Running Man in this battle?
I mean, I think I've made my thoughts clear. How many zones does the Dark Half have? Can I mean none?
None that I recall reading.
I
It's
don't
a
remember
deep
a
cut.
single
Yeah.
goddamn zone in that
Well,
movie.
yeah. Ensville's a ville, not a zone.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Team Zone all the way.
Does that make CM Team Ville?
Yeah.
Sure.
The polar opposite of a zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh, what do you think of these?
Man, I really love both of these movies. And I watched them both for the very first time for the show. So my relationship to both these movies includes the both of you. And the sheer joy, like Ben, you said earlier, that tone. Sharing the room with the two of you when actors make one-liner quips is just really a special moment for me.
I don't know what the vibe it is, if there's a word for it, but it just, watching either of these movies, it doesn't matter, Blu-ray, 4K, whatever,
Mhm.
it feels like you're watching them on VHS.
Yes,
And
it
like,
does.
I sit there and I can smell Pizza Hut in the other room, regardless of what's happening. It just feels like staying up late on a school day. You
Wouldn't
know,
it be great to watch these in an old video store?
oh, I would kill to that, like the one last blockbuster
Yeah.
that they turned into a B&B.
They need to make
I hadn't heard about
they
that.
need
that's
to
a
make the
thing.
new movie theater just an old video store.
I'm into that.
I love that idea. Very themed theaters. I love it. I guess the only other thing that I could really say, both these, man, trying to get one leg up over the other, I was going to point out that The Dark Half has its own video game, but so does The Running Man, and they're both equally terrible.
Wait, the Dark Half has a video game?
Yeah.
Have we talked about this?
No.
Why have you kept this from me?
I'm so so sorry.
Why are you trying to hurt me, Josh?
I've been trying to find a copy of it that we could play on
Oh
stream.
my God.
Um,
What, Super Nintendo, I would
it is,
assume?
it's PC.
PC.
It is
Okay.
a point and click adventure, which that's got to be the deciding factor for me is the type of game that
Wow.
it is. All right, I feel like we've covered our bases here, so we're gonna go with the vote. So Sam, we're gonna go to you first.
The Dark Half. I almost said the Dark Man. I can't choose. The Dark Man.
The running half.
Yeah, I was just about to say, my vote is The Running Man. Almost said The Running Half. That is my vote, though. The Running Man.
All right, you're the tiebreaker.
I can't not vote for that movie. I love it.
I can't, but it's insane to me because it's not the book at all.
Oh, no, not at all.
No, but it's insane to me because normally I feel like that might piss some of us off. But we're like, oh, it's just this random movie that has nothing to do with our podcast or Stephen King's world.
It is like if when we finally cover The Lawnmower Man.
Right.
And then we cover the 90s movie The Lawnmower Man. That is literally nothing.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
Legally distinct. It is.
I can't wait.
We'll do the Dollar Baby.
Yeah, we'll do the Dollar Baby one. Tie-breaking vote. I'm gonna go with the Dark Half. The point and click adventure game is really what took it over the edge for me. It's actually my real deciding factor is that I have loved both of these movies, but the only one that I have sought out to try to buy a Blu-ray copy of since we watched it is the Dark Half, because I just want to have it so I can watch it again.
There's something special about it.
Yeah.
It's a very good movie. I can't stress that enough.
This is a very weird round also because we didn't bring this up, but both of you to each of these respective movies mentioned watching them like once a year in earlier episodes.
Oh, yeah.
This is a real grudge match between you guys.
Yeah, no, I literally, I have said on the podcast before that Running Man, not only one of my favorite adaptations, just straight up one of my favorite movies, which I think says a lot about my taste.
Every time we record, it reminds Ben that it exists and goes home and watches it.
That's true.
All right, our next round, now that we have the Dark Half advancing, is Pet Cemetery versus Christine. And in order to get here, we had Pet Cemetery besting the Tommyknockers, and we had Christine taking out Stand By Me. Christine was definitely the harder fought battle, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this one's going to be tough too. Although, personally, I have to say this is not close.
Really?
No.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
I have a very clear winner in my head.
Interesting.
I'm excited to see if you guys agree.
I do too, I think, but it makes me sad because the other movie is very excellent and I love it.
Yes. Okay, so we should... I mean, I feel like we're talking around a very obvious...
We're talking around voting for Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about, because these two are so different from each other, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you both looked at
sorry.
me.
I thought, I thought you were going to...
Oh, normally...
I thought you were continuing the thread.
Normally you guys jump right in. I didn't know I had the floor. This is... What do I do?
It made me think.
No, this is hard because Christine is directed by John Carpenter, probably my favorite director and composer, and it is just a solid movie, top to bottom. But Pet Cemetery for me has this like emotional pull. It's an experience watching it. It's not just a fun movie, which I think made me vote the way I did for the round we just did. Like The Running Man is great. It's just a fun movie. I love those. But The Dark Half has something more to it, something you can sink your teeth into a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is funny because that's the perfect way to describe The Running Man and The Dark Half is The Running Man is the fun movie and The Dark Half is the better movie. And normally I love just a fucking popcorn movie, and that's absolutely what Christine is. It is just fun. But Pet Cemetery stays with you. I thought about Pet Cemetery for weeks after we finished it. there's something special about Pet Cemetery.
The specialness of Pet Cemetery is actually the reason I'm leaning the other way.
Yeah.
My thought about this is that Christine is, yes, it's a fun popcorn movie. I think the atmosphere and the pacing are amazing. And I think that Pet Cemetery is also very ominous the whole way through. But if I'm going to revisit the world of Pet Cemetery, I think I'd rather reread the book.
That makes sense.
The movie, I hate Zelda.
Mm.
I hate how, I guess hate is a strong word. I feel like the design of Zelda has unfairly become this horror icon because I don't think it's scary. I don't think the design of
It's not a. Sorry, I'm gonna let
No.
you finish your thought. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I just that's the thing in Pet Cemetery that feels laughable to me.
Okay, I don't not understand why it feels laughable, and I don't disagree that people could reasonably find it laughable. I think that is A, part of its charm, and B, because it is so uncanny, because it's a male playing her and he's just doing this crazy voice, and the way he is physically performing this role make it I guess maybe that's something you'd call uncanny. Like it just it's not
Yeah.
right, and you can't quite figure out why it isn't right at first. And I think maybe like for me, the kind of horror fan I am, that's the perfect blend of I don't know whether to laugh or be really upset by this.
I also get that I would not call it laughable, but I understand that instinct. I specifically have a problem where we've watched movies before. You guys have seen it.
Ben laughs at all.
Yes.
All the
I mean,
scary
Ben and
Yeah.
you had to take a swing at Ben and I for laughing during the Pet Cemetery remake because of Zelda.
Yeah.
You guys weren't wrong, but he really ruined my vibe.
It's a thing that happens with me. If something is
Outrageous.
outrageous enough, it will just hit me the right way and I'll start laughing. But also, if something is unnerving enough, I will nervous laugh at it. I was just telling someone how when I went to see Hereditary in theaters,
Oh, no.
when the moment happened,
Oh boy.
Did you laugh? In
I-
the theater?
burst into laughter. Which in turn caused my date to laugh.
Ben,
It's Ben. I'm Ben. Hi.
Ah!
Josh, I think you were.
I stole that from Electra Lemon. Don't
That's
worry
great.
about it.
I feel like you were making a point, maybe, or maybe I was reading into what you're saying, that Christine is technically, like, from a technical standpoint, probably a better movie, possibly better performed overall.
I think that's arguable, but I'll let it fly.
There are some things in Pet Cemetery. It's like because this is so great, and these other people are doing so great, and we're seeing this book come to life in a really cool way. I can forgive so many things that might otherwise make this like, oh,
Yeah, I remember when we talked about the Pet Cemetery movie, that was one of the strikes against it at the top was Lewis Creed.
yeah.
Right.
And I feel like the atmosphere, the suspense in Christine just really gets me. I think seeing Pet Cemetery for the first time, because we watched it in 4K, didn't we? I believe that's the...
I'm sure we did. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Probably have
watching it in 4K for the first time is where I went down the wrong path with Pet Cemetery. Because I also have a problem where when I watch things, like, we've all gone back and revisited a show we loved in the early 2000s that takes place in a high school, and you're like, those are 35-year-old men and women.
Right.
That's what I had with Zelda. Zelda didn't look uncanny. Zelda was a grown adult man, and I couldn't... It was too sharp and too clear, and I couldn't see the unnatural or
There are
uncanny
some
about it. It was-
things that are suffered for horror specifically in like remasters.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
blood is very watery in that
Yeah.
movie.
Yes.
Yeah, and I had the benefit of, this nostalgia and having seen it before to just ignore the crispness when I needed to.
and I think maybe that's just the reason I come down so harsh on it, is because it's just something I latch onto when I see that type of casting.
Yeah.
Well, I voted first last time.
Yeah, so Ben, you're up first.
Okay, here's why the cast of Pet Sematary would beat Godzilla.
Yeah,
Good, all right.
They have the undead on their side.
true.
That is
They're
very true.
just more resilient. So I'm voting for Pet
How
Sematary.
many do you think?
They could bury Godzilla in the
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Oh my
Ooh.
god.
Is the pet cemetery? The pet cemetery would have to be bigger than Godzilla. Otherwise, you're just reanimating part of Godzilla.
Yeah, I
Ben,
wonder how that works.
If you had to reanimate one part of Godzilla, what part would it be?
Tail.
Good call. I'm gonna vote Christine.
Oh, I don't want to be the tiebreaker. I'm gonna vote Pet Cemetery.
All right, we have Pet Cemetery advancing. So the semifinals for this round will be the Dark Half versus Pet Cemetery.
Sam, I like it when you vote for because it's so obvious that you're like saying the answer as you're saying it. That felt very much
Yes, it
like
does.
you were not sure which movie you were going to say until Pet Cemetery came out of your mouth.
That's often how it
Yeah,
happens.
I like that.
Even though I claimed earlier, I'm like, oh, I got this. That's the problem, though. Talking to you guys, I go back and forth.
Give this conversation another 3 minutes. I could have been talked into
Yeah.
going the other way. Yeah.
All right, next we have The Shawshank Redemption versus Carrie. And we had Shawshank taking out
Ugh.
needful things and Carrie advancing against Thinner.
This
So,
is impossible.
this
This
is
is a really hard
fucking
one.
this is the toughest
This is fucking
matchup.
apples and oranges is the problem. These are two, whereas I feel like Dark Half and Running Man had very similar vibes.
Mhm.
You cannot imagine someone sitting down and being like, let's watch a movie, right? And they go, okay, what movie? And they go, I don't know, either Running Man or Dark Half. And you go, that makes sense. I can choose between those. You cannot say, hey, what movie do you want to watch? Shawshank Redemption or Carrie? I'd be like, what is wrong with you?
You'd have to leave because that person is clearly a serial killer.
The-
Because,
Yeah, those
Yeah,
are
what
Those are
not.
kind
the
of-
only two
what
DVDs
kind of
I
vibe?
movie do you want to watch?
Yeah.
Babe, Pig in the City, or Midsummer?
you don't,
like
you don't
what?
know what is going to happen the rest of the night when those are your options.
Yeah,
You don't know what to
It's
expect from that
crazy.
person. All right, Josh, make a pitch.
All right. I think something that I think is really interesting about this matchup is I love both of these movies very much.
Absolutely.
If you told me Shawshank Redemption was 5 hours long and Carrie was 35 minutes long, I'd believe you and I'd still watch them both again. There is something about the storytelling in both of these that I don't even know what the running time is. All I know is that whenever I think about Shawshank, I think I'm sitting down for a long haul.
And I know the reason why that is.
Is it because of watching it on TV?
Because you're watching it on television.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour
Because
block on TNT.
I challenge. I am shocked that we watched a DVD version of Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, we should have just turned on the
We-
TV
We
whenever
could have
wanted.
just turned on TNT and it would have been halfway through its second showing.
That's very true.
Like, I completely get it. It's Shawshank Redemption, and this is what I meant when they're like very different movies. If you're watching Shawshank Redemption, it's because you're at your parents' house and you need to watch something
Sure.
that
Oh.
everyone will enjoy.
Yeah,
Right?
that is your parents' Stephen King.
Exactly. It is. If you put on Shawshank Redemption, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter who's in the room. They're all gonna sit down and be like, "Yeah,
This
this
is an
is a
excellent
good
movie."
good couple hours." If you're watching Carrie, you have a few friends over, you're having some drinks and snacks, and you're like just in for a fucking good time.
Wait, so I have to vote on hanging with my friends or watching a movie with my parents is basically what you said.
That wasn't my intended argument, but it is seeming that is the case.
You're leaving Godzilla out of this equation in your mind, though, CM. So just keep that in the back of your head, too.
Well, Carrie is going to beat Godzilla.
Spoiler, but yeah, you're right. She's a mutant.
That's true. And with Carrie, when we did Carrie at the very beginning of our show, we watched so much Carrie. We like
Oh, our
I
show was so
forgot.
young then. We were trying to do
when
everything.
we crammed all that in there. But we all watched separate things, but then in my own time, I still went back and watched everything. I watched Carrie, the remake, Carrie 2, The Carrying, and the Carrie musical. There's another Carrie remake that we missed
What?
that I still haven't seen.
Oh, it was like 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
Completely.
Oh, Chloe
Yeah.
Moritz. I don't know what her name
No,
is.
we covered that one. There's another one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hit Girl? Is that
Yeah,
what I'm
that's the one
thinking
we
of?
watched.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there's another one that, since I have looked it up, there's another one in there
We
that
should
we haven't
do
watched.
that one as a
We should
watch party if we can, or a bonus Patreon
Yeah, that'd be fun.
episode.
But it's one of those things, that story is so crisp and clean that you can just watch it anytime.
And you could do something else with it that hasn't been done unless the newest one did it. You could go at it from more of the book angle and have the sort of investigative aspect included and have a whole different experience for people who are fans of the book and movies.
Are we voting on theoretical?
I am now. Yeah,
Oh,
the
shit.
potential, man.
Okay,
You have
well
to
then
vote
in
on
that case,
potential now.
here's my pitch for a potential Shawshank Redemption reboot.
Okay.
See, it's the distant future.
Mhm.
The prison is giant robot
Got it.
that all of the prisoners live in and control to fight Godzilla. Fuck, now I don't know what I'm voting for.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to replot The Running Man, but with Shawshank. Shawshank has become a game show.
I did like that one scene in Shawshank where Arnold had to crawl through the pipes.
Yeah.
Where he just burst through the pipes with his muscles. Yeah. It's also funny because these two are some of the most parodied Stephen King properties because the
Mhm.
stories are just so passively
Mhm.
known amongst the cultural zeitgeist. And I will never not think it is funny to watch a character crawl through shit or get blood poured on them. Those are things. Anytime those happen in anything, I'm like, I get that reference. And I'm just very happy about it. It's such a universal thing.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. They both get covered in human fluids.
Carrie's, well, I guess Carrie, if people exploded in
Blood. She gets covered in
It's
well,
not
I'm
human
sorry.
blood.
Bodily fluids.
Sure.
Yeah. So are we voting or are we just sitting in this?
I would just make sure. I'm going first this round. I'm going Shawshank.
I'm gonna vote for Carrie.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love being in the middle.
CM's caught
It's
onto
a
the
vote
game.
sandwich.
It's literally
On the
this is
beef. Sorry.
I have to vote in the purest way I can which one of these movies I would watch right now. If you two said we're watching a movie, it's one of these two, I'd say you're a lunatic, put Carrie in.
All right.
Oh shit!
All right.
That's a big upset in the seeds. Nice. All right, so we have Carrie moving on. Now let's find out who Carrie is going to face off against. We have Misery versus 1408. Misery.
Should we just move on?
Misery, who handily beat Dreamcatcher with no effort. And
Weird.
1408, which was, according to our listeners, a pretty strong upset because it took out It.
I don't
still
blame
stand by
them.
that too.
I don't
y'all.
Yeah,
blame them.
oh, I 100% I do. When you think about Misery, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
When I think about Misery, all I see is Kathy Bates standing at the foot of the bed. I just
That shot.
see her, and I don't even know which one. I don't know if she's holding a book, a manuscript, a bottle of champagne, a weapon.
Is she smiling?
Pills.
Is she scowling?
I'm not sure. I just see like this sort of like vague image of this moment, and I love Misery. Misery is my Running Man. If Running Man was as seriously good an adaptation as Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
We put Arnold Schwarzenegger into this role. Is this movie still as good?
It's it
Watch the
killed
shit out
me
of that.
when Kathy Bates delivered that line to Paul. I'm going to butcher it, but something to the effect of, "You don't know what it's like for someone like me to love someone like you." It broke my
Oh.
heart. I was like, this is what I, as a psychopath, was picking up on in this character in the book who we're
Yeah.
not supposed to root for, who's clearly supposed to be an antagonist. She is in the wrong. And I felt so much sympathy for her. And Kathy Bates, with one line, justified how I felt. And I was like, what a unique gift to get from an actor.
I love that that's the line that comes to mind for you, because I thought you were going to say the line that jumps to most people's mind, which is right after breaking his ankles and saying, "God, I love you,"
Mhm.
because that's something that
I mean, that's badass.
it is. But the line you picked is perfect for why Kathy Bates won a fucking Oscar.
Yes, and it made me understand exactly why Annie, book Annie, can justify everything she does. She's so powerful.
Mhm.
Sorry. That got weird.
Hey, when does it not? I'll say some things about 1408 while we're here,
Yeah.
wasting everyone's time. 1408, just like Christine, just like Running Man, is a straight up popcorn movie. That is another movie that, honestly, kind of like Shawshank Redemption. If I see 1408 is on TV, it's one of those movies. Oh, it's one of those, well, this is my afternoon
Yeah,
movies.
gotta stop and watch.
I'm going to sit down and watch Shawshank Redemption, Men in Black, and 1408, like whenever I see it. No, those movies have nothing in common.
But I
other than
agree.
movies that I
It's
just
an
love.
easy watch.
Yeah, exactly. And so much of the stuff I like I love a difficult watch.
Mhm. But you have to be in the mood for that. When are you not in the mood for an easy watch?
Exactly. Sometimes you just want to sit down and watch John Cusack get real scared.
Yep.
And he does a great job.
He's
Like
so good.
That's the thing that's crazy about 1408. Like and again, I guess this is a compliment that we talked about in Misery as well. When Misery is a 2-person cast.
Mm-hmm.
1408 is a 1-person cast.
Yeah.
And you have to pull out all the stops as an actor to make that engaging that whole time. And the fact that when it's horror, it's very easy to jump too far in your reaction. And I feel like John Cusack really lets that whole thing build. You never see him less scared than the scene before. That build is perfect.
He reacts exactly how he should. There are so many movies I watch, horror movies, of course, and I love them. But I have so many times I've said, that's not the reaction. Like, are you even bothered by that? Clearly you don't care.
Well, it's like when you see a character that screams at the top of their lungs when it turns out it was a cat knocking over a broom, and then they open a door and someone's face has been ripped off and their torso's empty and they give the same scream. Those are not equally scary things. Give yourself some room to grow is all I'm saying.
So one real quick question. Does the hotel... Two real quick questions. One, does the hotel room from 1408 count as one ghost or a bunch of ghosts?
A bunch?
And two, how many ghosts does it take to take down a Godzilla?
I think
At
you're
least
asking...
a room full.
Well, there we go.
Sorry.
There's our answer.
Better than what I had.
One room full of ghosts.
See, this is something that I feel like the matchup on paper does seem super easy, but getting into the ability showcased in there is a pretty good argument for 1408.
Misery.
Ben?
It was always Misery. It was never going to not be Misery.
It's absolutely Misery. I mean, come on. James Caan manages to have no lines of dialogue that are comparable for a long time, and you still want to cry for him. That's
Josh?
Unbelievable.
I'm surprised though. I thought, because you watched 1408 3 times, but not, okay, let's be clear. Not you have seen it 3 times. You watched it 3
like
times.
3 times back to back.
I did,
Yes.
yeah.
I thought you'd vote that.
And I really enjoy it,
But it's not better than Misery.
but
No,
it's
it's
not
just
better than
it's not
Misery.
better
Yeah.
than Misery. No.
There is a world in which 1408 could have been a better movie than Misery, but I feel like the depth of Misery
Mhm.
makes it something 1408 could never reach, because there is that is straight horror, and there's not a lot of emotional aspects.
Oh boy, I don't even know if I want to. I
I don't
feel
know.
like
The
you're
part at
kind of.
the end with his daughter turning
Yeah,
to ash in his arms.
that's pretty fucked up.
There is an emotional thread, but I understand what you're saying. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel as. It doesn't feel like the focal point, even though it technically is.
What you're saying is you're like the Academy and you just don't see
Are
artistic
you
value
talking
in
about
horror movies.
elevated horror?
Well, just
No, I
yeah.
understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's
The emotional thread in Misery is so gripping.
it grabs you a
And
little
it is
harder.
not
Yeah.
the focus of 1408. And I feel like there is a world that movie could have been made, but it would take just a lot of reworking
Mhm.
to tell a horror story of that genre and make it emotional. It's very hard to do. The only good one is 13 Ghosts. Anyway,
You're talking about the remake, right? With Matthew Lillard.
Well, yeah,
of course,
obviously.
of course.
That's
Oh, what is
an
that?
absolute insane thing
I
to
love
say.
I love how bad that movie
Was
is.
that-
It is one. Also, love that
I
movie.
fucking love that
Was
movie
that a
so much.
Castle movie originally? The guy who
The
would have
original
gimmicks
one.
in
Yes,
the theater,
yes.
Mhm.
like he'd
Because the
have
original one was in
he'd have like
3D.
skeletons on
Yeah.
Mhm.
wires.
Yeah,
like,
for
falling
House
into the
on Haunted
audience.
Hill. Yeah.
Oh my, that is
So
theater, you guys.
Amen. All right, so we have Misery advancing, and Misery will face off against Carrie in the semifinals. Now we are back to our last matchup on this side of the semifinals to see who is going to be facing off in the finals. We have the Dark Half versus Pet Cemetery.
Oh, this hurts. I
Mm.
don't know. Can my answer be? I don't know.
It can't. You're actually. I don't want to make you feel a lot of pressure, CM, but you're the third vote on this one.
Yikes.
So if you got a strong argument, now's the time to pull it out. These are yet two very excellent movies. I wonder why it is that The Dark Half isn't as
Well loved and
as
known.
well
Yeah.
loved as Pet Cemetery.
I don't know enough about 80s, like who knows whether it just didn't get advertised as
Yeah,
much
who knows
or
when it came out and how it was advertised and everything.
Sure. Okay, here's a different question. What does each movie have that the other one doesn't?
Mm.
Okay, the pro for the Dark Half, George Stark, is such a delightful villain.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can really, but it's not cheap. It's not like, a Jason sleeping bag against a tree, which is fun. I'm not knocking it in any way, but it's got character. It's spooky and cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery has Gage. I guess I'd make him sort of, even though the other powers are more the big bad in that, but Gage is the emotional heart of that movie that then also becomes the terror. And that's a real fucked up thing to do to the audience. George Stark and Gage both elevate these movies in really cool and totally different ways for me. And that's makes it really hard for me to figure out which one I have to pick.
Yeah, if I'm thinking what the movie has over the other one, the Dark Half has George Romero. And I think he has a lot to do with how cool George Stark comes out. Like some of the just
Probably. Yeah.
effects in the movie, I feel are very George Romero. The whole pencil scene, obviously, which
So
we
good.
talked about last episode. It's directed really well. It's awesome. Pet Cemetery has the guy that plays Judd, who is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Every time he's on screen, I just love. I
Mhm.
love him. And that final showdown in the bedroom is one of the scariest fucking things ever put on film. So
Gage acted part of that. It wasn't all, and that's what always
Mhm.
blows my mind when Lewis sticks him and he walks away and he goes, "Not fair."
Yeah, I
He was like
gasped.
3 years old, like holy shit. And he just they didn't try to make it like a voice or have him say all this dialogue. It was enough. And it was like, That I feel like a piece of shit. I can't remember. Is a female director who did Pet
Mhm.
Cemetery, and I can't remember her name, but I think there's a lot of really cool direction in that too.
I think if going on that route of one thing that one has the other doesn't, I think that while I agree with you about Judd, it's one of those performances that it's on the level of iconic with Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, where it
Mhm.
is in the remake they had John Lithgow and people. I was very excited.
Oh
I
yeah, because John
Mhm.
Lithgow's
He's
amazing.
amazing.
it,
Yeah.
it ended up not being great.
Yeah.
The point is that's a hard role to accept when the initial role is so iconic,
Mhm.
and to see someone take it on and not do as well really shows you how great that character of Judd is.
CM is
I'm
about to have a
sorry. No,
breakdown.
can we please have, I don't know what format we're going to do yet, but can we just have a bonus episode or something where I get to defend the remake of Pet Cemetery?
I would rewatch
Yeah,
the
we can
remake.
do a
Okay.
rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for the dark half, the dark half didn't make me want to cry, but it still kept me emotionally invested.
It's a cool investigative movie. Like he's
Yes.
trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm always a sucker for those too.
When they treated it like a mystery at the top as
Yeah.
opposed
Mm.
to how you get it in the book, I thought that was a really fun element. And even though there is, the Alan Pangborn's not Alan Pangborn, it didn't take me out of it so far that I stopped being invested in this story. And
Mhm.
just the core story of the dark half is so good.
Mhm.
All right, Ben, you are kicking off this round.
Oh, this is honestly, it's as close as a call can get. How good would this just be as a double feature?
Oh,
Right?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Personally, I am going to have to vote for Pet Cemetery. It's just one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm going to go Pet Cemetery also.
I don't want to show how the sausage is made, but I am so relieved that you both said Pet Cemetery because I did not want to choose, and now I feel
don't
like I
have
don't
to.
have to,
Yeah.
and I can say the dark half.
You can definitely give the dark half a pity vote.
I actually, honestly, I was thinking of voting that way anyway, which is a very difficult decision. But when we're talking about Josh, that was a very good question. What does each movie have that the other movie doesn't? It's like, it's kind of that investigative piece that makes me want to watch the dark half more often than I want to cry while watching Pet Cemetery. But yeah, not an easy decision.
Yeah, definitely not an easy choice. So Pet Cemetery is moving on to the finals. Let's find out who Pet Cemetery will face. Carrie versus Misery. You know what? Let's take that same question to Carrie versus Misery. Think about these movies. What's one thing that you hold over the other one?
I mean, obviously, Carrie is a movie about it's that classic teen movie. We had so many decades with the focal point on these teen characters, which I feel like I don't really see anymore. So that's kind of a cool nostalgia thing that I'm only recently kind of paying attention to. It's just a different experience when you're following a young girl entering womanhood and all the trials that brings with it and the ways that she is treated. And then you throw in these super awesome fucking powers. It's like, So that makes Carrie's character in the movie neat in a way that, Misery's just like this sort of straightforward horror story. It's almost like a home invasion movie, but in reverse.
It's a home abduction story.
Yeah.
The thing that immediately pops into mind is Carrie has that 70s De Palma sleaziness feel.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has
kind
that
of like
fucking midnight
Texas
movie.
Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
There's opening credits Bush.
exactly.
Teenage. I don't even want to say that.
Yeah, it's not great.
All
No,
those
it's-
actors are 37 years old.
It's just it has that like 70s
Swank to it.
yeah, that like drive-in feel, and I love that feel so much. They don't make movies that are like that feel that like
Mhm.
grimy sleazy feel, and I miss it. Whereas obviously, how much do we need to talk about Misery. It's fucking Misery, man. It's
And something that I think is great is that misery enhances the book. We've
Mhm.
talked about that a lot. And what I think is so interesting about Carrie is that in every adaptation, we lose a quarter to half the book
Yes.
of world building, and the movie adaptations really let us discover the world naturally with Carrie. And I
Mhm.
think that that's pretty awesome, especially because I know we're just talking about original Carrie, but when you do get into those remakes, the fact that this story of oppression and bullying and womanhood can be moved to any of the timelines in which this story has been
Mhm.
adapted to is pretty great.
Yeah, that's
It's a pretty
important.
strong argument for what makes Carrie such a good story and a good film adaptation.
Here's an interesting thing that might have made my mind up just now, because this is the first one, the first pair up that Misery has had that I do feel is close.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Mhm.
We're talking about how many times Carrie has been adapted, even though we should be just judging on the
Sure,
De
of course.
Palma. But the De Palma movie existed and then it got adapted a bunch of times. Imagine someone trying to remake Misery.
I was thinking about that too.
Oof.
It is so unnecessary. Like, if they announced a Carrie remake like today that was coming out next year, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, that I
Yeah.
would go see that. That
You wouldn't be upset or scared.
no, but like if they were to reboot or like remake Misery, I'd just be like, why?
Yeah.
Why? It's not
It-
necessary. Go fucking watch Misery.
Because it is the perfect adaptation. There's nothing that is lost. Josh, you said it perfectly. I don't know if there's another adaptation we've talked about that so perfectly complements and then goes
Mhm.
beyond complements and enhances. And then if you introduce your theory about it, Josh, which I can't not make part of the world that this book and movie takes place in, it enhances it even further. How many adaptations, as wonderful and as passionate and heartfelt as they are, how many have done that successfully?
I can only think of the one.
Yeah, and it's fun though because it's also about a female character in the lead role going through some stuff. Hers is less like physical, which is also fascinating.
What I find interesting about this matchup is this is also the only matchup that our main character can be seen as protagonist and antagonist.
Yeah, yeah.
The-
Carrie kills a lot of people.
Carrie kills
Carrie
a
kills-
lot of people.
A few, yeah.
In pretty
Annie does too,
grueling
though.
ways.
Mm.
Just off camera
Yeah.
and babies.
You know, I always forget that she kills babies.
Yeah. Somehow you always forget that scene.
I'm not a baby boy. It's a car boy. It doesn't
Oh,
work.
no, we
we
got
know
it.
what you were getting at. But if we keep talking about it, you can't delete it from the episode. that's
assholes.
the real important thing is
Oh.
we don't let a good clean cutting point start. So we should probably rate this thing. We should probably give our votes. I'm first, and I'm shocking myself. I'm going Carrie.
Wow, you're shocking me too.
I don't want to continue making arguments because I feel like once voting has started, arguments should be done. I'll defend myself later if I need to.
I don't know,
in
this
the
is our
comments.
show, man.
No, I'm gonna go Carrie.
Okay, I'm gonna go Misery.
I hate you both. 'Cause
Sorry, Ben.
I was so prepared for both of you to say Misery and then me go, oh good, I'm off the hook like
Like me
CM.
last time.
And I could give just as to show the respect that it deserves,
Yes.
I could vote for Carrie just to be like, oh yeah,
Now you have to make
I
a real
think-
choice.
but now I have to make a real choice. And that sucks because on the one hand, I could do my previous rule of what I want to watch right now.
But these are two
Or-
different movies, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I could vote in a way in which CM won't come across this table.
neither of you are mad at me. I already made my argument about the perfect adaptation. I don't need to remake that argument.
This is a political vote, but it is absolutely Misery. It deserves to be in the finals.
Why is it a political vote?
It's just, I think the votes should have been 2-1 for Misery and Carrie.
You know what? That's fair.
Personally, my personal view, I probably would have voted Carrie if I had gone first. But
You can't
think,
say that.
oh, does that invalidate something?
I feel like it. Well, I mean, I feel
we'll
like
have to wait for the
everything we
Academy to get
say
back to us.
invalidates everything else we
Yeah.
say.
But no, I that's my honest vote. Like, Misery deserves to be. I knew from the beginning Misery should be in the finals.
It is
like
my position was that CM is 100% right. Misery is a perfect adaptation.
Absolutely.
But this bracket isn't what's the perfect adaptation. It's our favorite adaptation. And of these stories, I think that the fact that this movie, like I said, it's timeless, and it managed to be so dark. You have your antagonist and protagonist are actually the same person, not in the kind of made up way Annie Wilkes is. But it's such a complex story, and it's like it's the first really complex story, and that's kind of what ended up making that final call. That was the argument I was going to make after I voted.
This is like off topic kind of bit. Can you guys feel like the energy from me during stuff like this specifically?
what do you mean?
I just feel like I'm putting out this really like tense, angry, anxious energy.
No.
Do you feel tense and angry?
I get really some of these discussions I'm like, yeah, I don't really care who wins, they're both fine, whatever. And others I'm like, if fucking Misery, if these bastards don't vote the way I want them to and not the way they feel or want, I'm gonna be mad. You can't feel that. I shouldn't have admitted that. Okay,
No, that's fine. Not this year, but in previous years, I have gotten that invested in a matchup when
Or
I'm like,
like-
are these two fucking insane? Because you sometimes lose sight of we're three people just goofing
it's
off.
just our opinions.
Because sometimes you just have a really strong opinion about stuff.
But that's what's awesome about what we're doing, talking about these, because everybody's going to have that moment or that element that's like, this is special to me in a way you are not respecting, you three.
That's
So
the
I'm
messages
sorry,
we got
everybody.
when 1408 beat it.
Yeah.
A lot of those messages. Sorry, your brackets got busted. I bet there were some people really holding their breath at Misery for Misery in this round with their brackets. All right, now we are going to go to the finals. This is going to be a toughie. Pet Sematary versus Misery.
I hate this. I specifically didn't want this.
You should have voted differently. You had a third of the control over how this ended up, Sia.
I know this isn't how it works and it doesn't make sense, but I wanted that to be the last thing. Like, we don't.
Yeah, it was a trick. We were just narrowing it down to the top two.
Yeah.
And
then they were going to hug, and that was it.
how
would
about
win in
this?
a
We
hug
stop
between
and we
Pet
put a
Sematary?
disclaimer saying, folks, if you want there to be a happy ending, stop reading here, turn back, renounce the tower that is the top of the bracket. And if you want to know what movie lies at the room at the top of the tower, then continue on. You gonna be okay, CM?
No, I don't know what to do. I don't know which.
I just don't
I
want
love
you to
them
be
both.
mad at me.
I know how you feel about Pet Sematary. I can't be mad at
I
you.
love it. So really, when it comes down to it, this is all on Josh. We don't need to be worried.
Sorry, what? Oh, fuck.
Yeah, all of this. Okay, this
votes
just
first?
changed because
CM votes first.
let's drop the pretense. CM is very obviously going and rightfully going to vote for Misery. I am going to vote for Pet Sematary.
Oh, fuck me.
So it comes down to this is all Josh's fault.
Yeah, listeners.
This is all right. Each of you take your chance to sway me
Oh my
one way or the
God,
other.
he planned this. He just wanted to sit back in all of his reigning glory and make us do all the heavy
fucking
lifting.
puppet master. who at this table made the brackets, knowing how we would vote, manipulating us with your conversation and friendship.
As established, I can only manipulate 1/3 of how this turns out. Also, if you want to really make a stink about it, blame the chambray shirt scores you gave to these movies originally, because that's how this was
blame the
seeded.
victim, Josh.
Fuck. Who wants to go first?
Ben, do you and I just want to have a discussion about
Sure. Yeah,
why
let's-
these two movies are fantastic?
They are so fucking good, man. Yeah, you say what you need. Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first. I
Sorry, I just literally don't know how I feel or what to say.
see, that's the problem, is because I don't either.
Okay, Pet Cemetery holds a special place in my heart. It is near and dear to me, and I think all of us, because of how devastatingly real it portrays grief. Something I enjoy, I think what draws me to horror in general is that I can safely explore. Usually it's more of like a dangerous situation, but I can explore horrific things safely because if I'm emotionally invested, I can still have sort of that turmoil and that reaction that affects me physiologically and mentally. But I know I'm okay. I know it's a movie and I can shut it off. And to have the opportunity to, we've all experienced grief, but I don't have kids and I can never know what it would be like to lose a kid. This is as close to am able to come to understanding what that must be like for someone. And I can say, yeah, I know I don't get it and I don't have kids, but I feel like I might make the same terrible decision. Reading about it, knowing exactly how terrible it would play out, I might still do it anyway. And I think I said in the episode, if you and Ben
Yep.
and Devin, like you're three people, I'd be like, I don't care, I'm doing it. And everybody like, CM, don't do it. I'm like, nope, it's going to work out for me. It's going to be different this time. That's such a wonderful thing to play with us with. And that is something that makes Pet Sematary very unique. So I guess I accidentally argued for the movie you're going to pick. So now you should argue for Misery.
Misery is one of the most tense movies I've ever seen. Every second of that movie that Kathy Bates is on screen, the tension of not knowing how she is going to react from 1 minute to the next, it keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
But more amazingly is when she's fucking not on screen, it's still there. The fact that Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes has screen presence when she's gone is unbelievable. It is one of the most amazing performances in movies. I could watch her performance forever. If I'm talking about why this movie deserves to be the best one, the movie's good. Kathy Bates is the reason that the movie is as good as it is.
Yes. Josh, do you now see who the real puppet masters are?
Yeah, we fucking got you.
Well, because if you vote for my movie, that makes me happy, but Ben's argument won you over, and that's cool. If you vote for Ben's movie, I know that I made a real fucking cool argument, so I win either way. Ben, we win either way.
Yes.
Yeah, so Misery.
We're all winners here.
That's my
I like
vote.
that I thought you were trying to like trick Ben into saying Misery right after. So it didn't.
Misery!
Yeah.
High five, Misery! Oh, sorry, we high-fived on mic.
That would really take the power away from me. If you two end up agreeing, then...
Not gonna happen.
This is really crazy for me because in the last round, I voted for the movie against both of these movies.
That's true. Huh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So this is really interesting. So let's do it up official. CM,
Misery.
Ben.
Pet Cemetery. I almost said Misery. Just on accident.
I would have episode would have stopped right there. CM would have cut to outro, and no one would ever know anything else happened. You guys both made amazing arguments, and I will let you know that you changed my mind.
Oh no.
I'm going to vote for Misery.
Yeah, that's fair.
I really thought I was going to go Pet Cemetery, but I know we said this kind of as a joke, but which one of these had an Oscar winner because of its performance? You just that makes it another level.
Weirdly, I couldn't
Impossible
have
choice.
argued as well for Misery as you did.
I feel the same way. Like, I think that was the only way that could have went.
I'm only a little bummed because I feel like because of how we always talk about Misery, our audience is going to be like, yeah, it's a given as soon as I saw the bracket.
Yeah.
But I think that the
Well, I
conversation,
hope
I mean,
yeah.
I feel like the conversation we have warrants.
I hope it was worth them
Yeah.
knowing to
Yeah,
listen.
I mean-
And listeners, if you have an idea for next year's bracket,
Yeah.
please send us an email. We
Mhm.
will gladly, when we did Antagonist versus Protagonist, that was from one of you sending us, that's what you wanted us to do. So send us an email. Let us know what you want to see us do next year. But guys, let's celebrate the winner of this year's March Madness,
Woo!
Misery.
Yay.
Yeah.
All
Lots of
right.
movies that deserved to win as well, but
I want to rewatch like half these movies.
Oh,
Yeah.
no
so.
kidding.
But legally, we have to watch Misery right now. So.
Yeah. That is it for this episode of Derry Public Radio. As always, thank you for listening. Join us for our next episode. For Joshua Kahn and Benjamin Graham, I'm CM Alexander telling you to bracket to the top. Hey everyone, CM Alexander here. Thank you for listening to our final March Madness matchup. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't like what we said, just pretend we said something else. In all seriousness, though, thank you guys so much for all of your comments and emails and participation with our March Madness brackets. As always, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Derry Public Radio and Twitter at Derry Public. You can also email us, derrypublicradio@gmail.com. And if you're looking for merch and bonus episodes, don't forget to check out our Etsy and our Patreon pages, respectively. That's all for now, listeners. Goodbye.